Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. It's possible to make a picture with just the lighting. The interaction of the angular shaft of light, the glass and the cherry form an interesting composition, helped along by the cherry being the only colour element in the picture. And in this video I'll show you exactly how I did it. So this is what I've got set so far. This is a piece of matte white perspex, and I'm using this on purpose because it will give a very good surface on which I'm going to project, in effect, a shaft of light. And it's that which will form the background and a bit of the foreground to the image. Okay, so for the subject I'm using this cocktail glass. So I'm going to put a little water in here and add a cherry to the outside of it. So that will be our subject. So to create the actual shaft of light, what I'm going to do is in effect make a gobo around here somewhere. So to do that I'm just going to use this C stand. So I'll just place this on the edge of the table here. I'm going to put the arm up to about 30 degrees or thereabouts to the horizontal. I'll just put this up in the air a little, something like that. Okay, so on here I'm going to place some black cloth, but before I do that I just want to make a parallel bar with a gap, and it's that gap which will form the gobo, which will make a shaft of light on the set. You'll see what I mean as I go along. There we are, so that's the parallel bar, and this is the gap which I have between the two. So the next thing to do would just be to add the cloth to this. This is just a piece of black wool stage cloth. There we are, and that's forming one half. So I just need to add another piece at the top here. So to support that, I'm just going to use yet another C stand. So I'll just pop this in here somewhere, and we'll just put the arm up. There we are, something like that. And just add the cloth to that. So I'll just use a few clamps just to secure everything in place. Okay, so this has formed my gobo, and I've got a gap in between here of something like 50 millimeters or 2 inches. The whole scale of this will depend on how you build your own particular set. So to complete that I just need a back wall here, so I'm just going to use another piece of perspex and just place this at the back. There we are, and that's nothing more complicated than just leaning up against the back. It'll just give a nice right angle here. So with the set complete now, I can place the camera at an appropriate place. So I'm using this medium format camera with a 120mm lens on the front of it, but if you're using something like a full frame format camera, you can get the same angle of view from something like a 70mm lens. Okay, so I'm just going to place this on this tripod at the front here. Now the next thing I want to do is make sure that the camera is level. And to do that, you can use a spirit level on the top of the camera, or in this case, I have a level device actually built into the camera. So if I just turn the camera on and run through the menu until I get to the leveling bubble, like so, I can now just use the controls on the tripod just to level it up. There we are. Now it's quite important to get this right for something like this, which is very angular. And I want to make sure that I also line up the very top of the glass with the lens on the camera. That way it won't show the two sides of the glass, it'll just show a straight line. I'll show you what I mean after I have connected the camera to the computer so that I can use Capture One software here to show you all the settings on the camera. There we are, that's all connected now, and you can see these are the settings that I have on the camera at the moment. So it's in full manual mode. I have a shutter speed of 125th of a second. Now that's the focal plane shutter flash sync speed for this camera. 100 ISO, and I've set an aperture of f11. Now that should give me enough depth of field at this sort of distance to keep everything sharp. Okay, so in order to set this up properly, what I'm going to do is just make use of live view. So I'm just going to start that up. Just make that a bit bigger. There we are. And now with live view active, what I can do is, first of all, I'll just focus that up a little. Just get a rough focus, like that. And I can see that I actually need to raise the camera up a little. So what I can do is just use the geared center column on the tripod here. Whilst watching the image on the screen, I'll just make that a bit bigger so it's easier to see what's going on. So as I move the camera up, you should be able to see the two rims, the front rim and the back rim on the glass. At that sort of height, somewhere around there, they actually coincide, which is what I want. And it's a lot easier to do this using live view as it gives a much more precise image. So now I can dispense with live view. And the next thing to do will just be to do an experiment just to make sure I don't get any contamination from the house lights. So before I've set a flash, what I'll do, just grab an image and we'll see what we get. There we are, and we have a very dull image, but there's nothing there which is going to cause too much of a problem, I don't think. So from that I can tell that any light which I now add is going to be the only light which really affects the subject. So for a light, what I'm going to use is this studio head. Now I'm using a studio head on purpose here because these have a modelling light function built into them. So if I just turn this on, I can now turn on the modelling light, and that will give me an idea of just what I'm going to get on the scene. So if I just put this up in the air a little, you should be able to start to see shafts of light going across the background. Just to make it a bit easier to see, I'm just going to turn the house lights out. There we go. So now you should be able to make out the shafts of light that I've got on there. Now at the moment they're in nowhere near the right place. So what I need to do is adjust the light until they are. So what I'm going to do is make use of live view again. So I'll just start that up. And now as I move the light, you can see the effect it's having on the picture. If I just start off with it something like that, that's almost in the right place. So I can dispense with live view, and just at an arbitrary energy level, I'll grab an image and see what I get. Okay, so you can see from that the exposure, it's a little dim. I think I need at least 2 stops more. So I'll add 2 stops of energy to that flash and we'll grab that again. So that's brought the exposure up to more or less where I want it, I think. But the other thing that you can see about the image here is that the shaft of light, especially on the base here, is a little fuzzy at the edges. Now that can be sharpened up just by moving the light further away. There we are, so having moved it a bit further away, again due to the inverse square law, I'm going to need to add a bit more energy just to make up for that. So I'll add 1.5 stops and we'll grab that again. Okay, so that's starting to come along now. I can see that the exposure's possibly a little bright. But the other thing I can see is I've got an awful lot of spill everywhere. So that's the next thing that's going to need to be addressed. And to do that, I'm just going to add some more black cloth, generally just round the side here and possibly on the base as well. The thing about using large quantities of white like I am here is that you'll get an awful lot of bounce around the actual set itself. So a lot of that can be eliminated by the use of black cloth. So I'll just put a piece on the edge here to start with, and then I'll just place some more on the base just to cover up some of that white. And with all that in position, I'll just grab another image and see what it looks like now. Okay, so you can see from that the exposure isn't bad. I can also see that I'm getting a little bit of leakage just in this corner. And I think that's just because the black cloth here isn't actually covering that corner very well. So I'm just going to add this piece of card. So I'll just place the card in there, just like that. There we are. Just grab that again and see if that makes any difference. There we are, that's got rid of it, and it's darkened down all this side quite nicely. So that's all starting to look pretty good. Okay, so that's captured the base image. But as you can see, there's a few bits in here which are generally making the whole thing look a little untidy. I don't mind the shadow, but I think this can be eliminated. Now all these other parts of the image are actually coming from the reflections and refractions in the glass. So in order to get rid of those, I'm just going to move the glass out of the way. There we are. So with the glass out of the way, I'm going to just grab that image again. There, and that's given me this clean background. So the next stage would be just to go into Photoshop and combine those two images together. So here we are in Photoshop, and I've loaded up the two files of the images that I captured earlier. So this is the background image, and this is the one with the glass in it. So first job would be just to make a stack of those two, and I can do that by going onto File, coming down to Scripts, then going down to Load Files into Stack, ask it to add the open files and just click on OK. And Photoshop has made me a new file which has each image on a different layer. So I can turn them on and off like so. Okay, so what I want to do is just add a mask to this top layer, like so. And then if I paint on this mask in black, it will bring through the underlying clean image. So I should be able to remove all the other artifacts. Okay, so we just make sure that black's selected as the foreground color, find a paintbrush, and just take out those other bits that I don't want. This makes it relatively quick and easy to clean up the image. There we are, and I can just show you a before and after. That's what we had before, and that's what we've got now. So it just cleans up the image a bit. So finally, I just want to apply a crop. I'm using this for video, so I'm using a specific ratio of 16:9. So what I want to do is just bring that in slightly. There we are, just to tidy it up. And there we have it. So by using a strong angular shaft of light, it's possible to make a picture really come to life. And I think together with the red cherry, that has really made a very interesting composition. And I think overall, that's worked rather well. Okay, well I hope you liked watching how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.